I work as an Uber driver in a mid-sized city. It's not one of those huge metropolitan places where you're just a nameless car in a sea of traffic. But it's also not small enough where everybody knows your face. It's right in that in-between. Enough strangers to make every shift unpredictable. I usually drove late at night. The money was better, the roads were quieter, and honestly, there was something peaceful about watching the city fall asleep through my windshield. At least, that's how it used to feel before this night. It was a Friday. Just after 1:30 a.m., I had already decided the next ride would be my last before heading home. The streets were quiet, just the occasional drunk stumbling on the sidewalk, or a taxi rolling by. Streetlights buzzed overhead, casting that weird orange glow on everything. Then my phone pinged. A new ride request. The app said the passenger's name was Michael. No profile picture, just a grey, blank silhouette. That wasn't uncommon. Lots of people don't bother uploading one. Still, something about it gave me this weird pause before I tapped accept. The pickup location was only a couple of blocks away, outside a small corner grocery store. It had been closed for hours. When I got there, the parking lot was empty. The only light coming from a single flickering street lamp. I waited a moment, looking around. That's when I noticed a tall figure step out of the shadows near the side of the building. He was thin, almost lanky, and wore a dark hoodie pulled tight over his head. His hands stayed deep in his pockets as he walked toward the car. He didn't look like someone coming out of a store or bar. He looked like someone who had been waiting. He opened the back door and slid inside without saying a word. "Hey, Michael," I asked, turning slightly to check. He gave a single slow nod. His hood cast most of his face in shadow, but I could make out the pale edge of his jaw. "All right," I said, trying to sound casual. "Where we headed? Just drive," he muttered. His voice was low, almost raspy. That raised a red flag immediately. Normally, Uber won't let you start a trip without a destination. But sometimes, it just says set destination later. This was one of those. I forced a chuckle. "Well, I need at least some direction, man." He leaned forward slightly. That was when I caught the smell. Metallic, like rust or iron. Faint, but sharp. It mixed with something sour, something off. It hit me so suddenly that I almost gagged. "Just drive around," he said, leaning back. "I'll tell you when to turn." His tone wasn't a request. It was a command. I pressed the gas and pulled out of the lot, heart thumping. At first, he gave vague directions. Left here, right there. We weren't heading downtown or toward any neighborhood. He was guiding me down back roads, industrial streets, lined with warehouses, half-lit roads with nobody around. Every so often, I glanced in the rearview mirror. That's when I realized wasn't looking out the window. He was staring directly at me. His posture never changed, his eyes locked on me like he was studying my every move. "You drive a lot of people?" he asked suddenly. The question startled me. His voice was calm, but there was something underneath it. Something off. "Yeah," I said quickly. "Pretty often, late at night." "Yeah, usually then. Less traffic." He didn't respond, just kept staring. We drove in silence for several minutes. Then, under the glow of another streetlight, I finally saw his face more clearly. His skin was pale, almost grayish. His lips were dry, cracked, but his eyes, they were wide, glassy, unblinking, like someone who hadn't slept in days. He leaned forward again, and I stiffened. "Do you ever wonder," he whispered, "what it feels like to never make it to your destination?" The words froze me. "What do you mean?" I asked, forcing the question out. His mouth curved into a faint, chilling smile. "Some people don't ever get there." My grip tightened on the wheel. My instincts screamed that something was wrong. I tried to act calm. "Yeah, I guess. Car accidents, stuff like that." But he shook his head slowly. "No, not accidents." Silence filled the car again. I could hear every creak of the suspension, every hum of the tires. Finally, I pretended to check my phone. "Hey, looks like the app's glitching. I'll need to pull over for a second." I steered toward a well-lit street near a 24-hour gas station. The fluorescent lights made the place glow like a safe island in the dark. I put the car in park and hit end ride on the app. "All right, man," I said, keeping my voice steady. "This is as far as I can take you." He didn't move, just sat there, staring. Then, slowly, he leaned closer. I could hear his breathing now, low and uneven. He leaned toward my ear from the back seat and whispered, "You shouldn't have done that." I froze, not daring to move. Then he opened the door, quietly, calmly. He didn't slam it or even close it hard, just a soft click as it shut. Then he walked away, disappearing into the shadows behind the gas station. I sat there for what felt like forever, hands shaking on the wheel. Finally, I locked the doors and sped off. But here's the thing that still keeps me up some nights. When I checked my Uber app later, there was no record of the ride. No Michael. No payment. Nothing. It was like it never happened. And yet, I can still remember the smell, the voice, and worst of Alto's glassy eyes staring at me in the mirror. Even now, on late-night drives, I sometimes feel that same weight in my rearview mirror, like he's still back there, waiting for me to take the wrong turn. I'd been driving for Uber for almost a year when this happened. Most nights were uneventful, just drunk people heading home from bars, couples too tired to walk, or workers ending their shifts. But every so often, a ride would shake me up. This one still lingers in the back of my mind. It was a Tuesday night in late November. Cold, damp, one of those nights when the air feels heavy and clings to your skin. I was parked downtown, waiting for a request, when the app buzzed. The pickup was only a couple of minutes away, outside a quiet diner that stayed open until midnight. When I pulled up, I saw her right away. A young woman stood under the flickering neon sign, hugging herself against the cold. She looked around, nervously, like she didn't want to be there. As soon as she spotted my car, she rushed over and got in the back seat. Her name on the app was Anna. She looked maybe mid-20s, with shoulder-length brown hair tucked into a messy bun. Her coat looked too thin for the weather, and her eyes had that exhausted look, like she'd been awake too long. "You, Anna?" I asked. "Yeah," she said quickly, almost too quickly. "Thanks for coming." Her voice was shaky, and she kept glancing over her shoulder at the street. "Where we headed?" I asked, starting the ride. She gave me an address on the other side of town. I knew the area. It wasn't somewhere people usually went this late unless they had a reason. Lots of abandoned houses, half-lit streets, and old factories that had been closed for years. "You sure that's the right address?" I asked carefully. "Yes," she said firmly. "Please, just drive." Something in her tone made me drop it. As we pulled onto the road, I noticed she kept looking behind us, twisting in her seat like she was checking if someone was following. "You okay back there?" I asked. She hesitated before answering. "Yeah, I just..." I think someone's been following me tonight. That sent a chill through me, like in a car. She shook her head. No, on foot. Ever since I left work, I saw a man watching me. He was across the street, just standing there. Then I saw him again near the diner. I didn't want to walk home, so I called this ride. I swallowed hard. That explained the fear in her eyes. Did you call the police? She gave a short, humorless laugh. What am I supposed to say? Hi, there's a guy standing outside. They don't care unless he does something. I didn't argue. She wasn't wrong. We drove in silence for a while. The city thinned out as we went further, buildings giving way to empty lots and warehouses. Streetlights became less frequent until the road was lit only by my headlights. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror. Anna was still tense, hugging herself, eyes darting out the back window. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Far behind us, barely visible, a pair of headlights appeared. At first, I thought nothing of it, just another car. But then I realized the road we were on was mostly deserted, and every turn I made, those headlights made too. I kept my voice calm. Anna, did you see what the guy looked like? The one you said was following you. She nodded slowly. Tall, pale, dark coat. I didn't see his face. He kept his hood up. I glanced again. The car was still back there, keeping distance. I tried not to alarm her, but she must have noticed my eyes flicking to the mirror, because she turned and saw it too. Her face went pale. That's him, she whispered. You're sure? I know it's him. He's been following me all night. I felt my hands tighten on the wheel. All right, I said, trying to stay calm. Here's what we'll do. I'll take a few random turns. If he's still behind us, then we'll head straight to the nearest police station. Sound good? She nodded quickly, clutching the seat in front of her. I turned left onto a side street. The headlights followed. I turned right, then another right. Still there. Anna's breathing quickened. He's not stopping. By now, the road had grown darker. Fewer houses, more empty lots. The car behind us slowed down, keeping just enough distance to stay visible. Hang on, I muttered, scanning the GPS. The nearest police station was still miles away. Too far. Then Anna leaned forward. Don't go to the police. I glanced at her. What? Why not? She shook her head. He'll know. He'll follow me inside. Just take me to the address I gave you, please. Her voice cracked. Something about it didn't sit right, but I kept driving. We turned onto a road. I recognized an old stretch lined with abandoned houses, their windows boarded up, the kind of place you avoided after dark. The car behind us slowed, then disappeared at the last intersection. I let out a breath of relief. Looks like he's gone. Anna didn't relax. She kept staring out the back window, whispering to herself. We reached the address. It was a rundown house with no lights on, paint peeling off the siding, weeds choking the yard. It looked completely abandoned. You live here? I asked cautiously. She nodded. Yeah, thanks for the ride. But she didn't move to get out. She just sat there, staring at the house. Everything okay? I asked. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was flat, almost rehearsed. You shouldn't have brought me here. My stomach dropped. Before I could respond, the back door opened, and that's when I saw him. A man stepped out from behind the house. Tall, who'd pulled low over his face. Pale skin, dark coat. The exact description Anna had given me. He walked toward the car slowly, deliberately. I slammed the car into drive. Hold on, I shouted, flooring it, The tires screeched as we tore down the street. I didn't look back, didn't want to see if he was chasing. When I finally glanced in the mirror, the house was gone, swallowed by the dark. Anna was gone too. The back seat was empty. I don't know when she got out. I don't know how, but I swear on my life, I watched her climb into my car back at that diner. And to this day, when I check my trip history from that night, there's nothing. No record of Anna, no ride request, just a gap, like she was never there. I live in a smaller city surrounded by miles of farmland and back roads. Driving Uber out here isn't like doing it in a big metro area. Rides are fewer, longer, and a lot emptier. You can drive 10 minutes without seeing another car. That isolation is fine most of the time, peaceful even. But sometimes, when the night is dead silent and you're the only car on the road, it gets under your skin, like the world is holding its breath. This happened last spring on a rainy Saturday night. I'd been driving for hours and was about to head home when I got a ride request. The pickup was far out, at least 15 miles from town, practically in the middle of nowhere. I almost declined it. Something about the little blue dot on the map gave me a bad feeling. It was surrounded by nothing but fields and wooded areas. No houses, no gas stations, just an isolated road. But I accepted anyway. The drive out there was unsettling. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the roads were slick, reflecting the faint glow of my headlights. Every so often, I'd pass an old barn or a dark farmhouse, their windows pitch black. Finally, I reached a pin. It was on the side of a narrow road, bordered on both sides by thick woods. No buildings, no streetlights, just trees and darkness. I pulled over, engine idling. My hazard lights blinked into the void. For a minute, nothing happened. Then, from the trees on the right, someone stepped out. It was a man, tall, dressed in a dark coat, no umbrella despite the rain. He walked slowly, almost too slowly, toward the car. His face was pale in the headlights, but his expression was unreadable. He opened the back door and got in without a word. Hey, I said, forcing a smile. You, John. That was the name on the app. Yes, he said simply. His voice was low, flat. I put the car in drive. All right, where we headed? He gave me an address about 20 minutes away, deeper into the countryside. No landmarks, no towns, just a rural route. We drove in silence for a while. The only sounds were the tires on wet pavement and the faint hiss of rain on the roof. Something about him put me on edge. He sat stiffly, hands folded in his lap, staring straight ahead. Not at his phone, not out the window, just forward, as if watching the road with me. After 10 minutes, I tried to make conversation. So, rough night. He didn't answer. I glanced in the mirror. He was still staring, unblinking. Then he spoke, so quietly I almost didn't hear. You came quickly. I swallowed. Yeah, I guess. Not much traffic tonight. He tilted his head slightly, as though considering this. Then he said something that chilled me. Usually, they don't come at all. I frowned. What do you mean? He didn't reply. We drove on. The farther we went, the fewer signs of life there were. No houses, no lights, not even other cars. Just endless woods pressing close to the road. The GPS showed we were still 10 minutes from the destination. But something strange happened. Little navigation arrow started to glitch. It flickered, then spun, then reset, like it couldn't find where we were. Sorry, I muttered, tapping the screen. Signal's weird out here. The man leaned forward slightly, his voice barely above a whisper. There's no signal. Here, I froze. How did he know? I forced a laugh. Yeah, I guess not. But when I looked at the GPS again, the route was gone. Just a blank map with my car floating in grey space. That's when the man spoke again. Don't worry. I'll tell you where to turn. His voice was calm, but something about it made my skin crawl. Sure enough, at the next intersection, he said, turn left. The road we turned onto was narrower, lined with overgrown grass and leaning trees. My headlights barely lit more than a few feet ahead. Another few minutes passed, then he said, right here. It wasn't a road. It was a dirt path, half hidden by brush. My tires crunched over gravel as we bumped onto it. The woods grew thicker, swallowing the sky. I slowed down. Are you sure this is the way? Yes, he said firmly. Keep going. I gripped the wheel tighter, every instinct screaming to turn back. But his voice had this weight to it, like arguing wasn't an option. We drove deeper, the dirt path winding between trees. My headlights caught glimpses of old wooden fences, collapsed barns, things long abandoned. Finally, the path opened into a small clearing. At the far end stood a house, or what was left of one dot. It was a decaying farmhouse, its roof sagging, windows shattered. Weeds grew through the steps. The place looked like it hadn't been lived in for decades. I put the car in park. This is it. The man leaned forward, his face close to mine in the mirror. His eyes were dark, hollow, like endless pits. Yes, he whispered. This is where it ended. A chill ran through me. Before I could say anything, he opened the door and stepped out. He didn't run, didn't hurry. He just walked slowly toward the house. I watched him disappear through the broken doorway. I waited. 1 minute, 2. My heart pounded in my chest. Then I realized something. The back seat was dry. The man had come out of the woods in the rain. He'd been sitting there for 20 minutes, but the seat completely dry. That's when I slammed the car into reverse and tore out of there. Branches scraped the sides as I sped down the dirt path, heart hammering, until I hit the main road again. I didn't stop until I was miles away, back near town. When I finally pulled over, I checked the Uber app. The ride was gone. No record of John, no payment, nothing. It was as if no one had ever been in my car. But I swear, when I close my eyes at night, I can still hear his voice in the back seat. You came quickly, and I wonder, what was I really picking up that night? Which of these Uber stories chilled you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy true horror stories, make sure to subscribe, because there are plenty more nights filled with fear waiting for you.